got to listen to today, unfortunately.
Step forward, Janet Brown. You've heard the witnesses. Annie and Margaret accuse you of abduction and abuse, as well as the enforcement of transportation of children. I myself have made numerous inquiries from other sources who are unwilling to give testimony, or for fear of reprisal, are unwilling to do so. And from my inquiries, it is clear to me, Janet, that you have been involved in this evil trade for many years.
Aye.
So come now, Janet, since you're so well advanced in years and may not have many more to enjoy, indeed, if you can enjoy a life so tainted with evil, now today is your chance to be shriven, to unburden yourself of all the guilt you must have carried for so long, to clear your conscience before you go to your final reckoning. Come now, Janet, tell the truth about this whole corrupt business and help exonerate Master Williamson.
Well, Mr. Davidson, I make the all and back to look, I must have money many years before I hit a young, but then again, I might see some young Marines in the cell here down before me, for I led a good, clean, decent, hard-working life. And nobody that you've had nosing around could ever tell you with truth that they've ever seen me in any rock houses or any taverns. No, but I was busy for that. I had to bring up a big family, single-handed, from a man deed many years ago, I'm telling you. And that's where I'm telling you, Mr. Davidson, that I been respectful and take my orders to my betters and say, I'm just thinking that only confessions and only shriving that's going to be done can just wait until I meet my maker.
Well said, Janet. I think that should suffice for this witness, Davidson.
Well, I have to differ, Mr. Fordyce. She has not answered to my satisfaction. I want you now, Janet, to tell us about your part in these abductions, for I know you were involved.
He's speaking a bull, Mr. Davidson, my pet. I ken there are many coarse folk here in Aberdeen that are envious of my respected standing with some of them in high office, and nobody kens what kind of lees they would put about to discredit an honest woman like myself. You've been listening to some of them, me, taking bairns, locking them up, taking silver for the day note. Come on, Wanu. I look like anybody that would do that thing like that. As Mr. Fordyce has told you, it's just a pack of jealous lies. And Mr. Davidson, I like bairns. When you brought up echt to my end, and I'm telling you, I had never ill-used a bairn in my whole life. And I'm telling you, Mr. Davidson, the only thing I have ever done for only bairns I have ever encountered, I have done it for their own good.
So abducting poor defenceless bairns, tearing families apart, sending innocents to colonies to be sold as slaves, that was for their own good, was it? I ask you again, Janet, to tell us about your part in these abductions, and about the part of those in power here. About Walter Cochrane's part, Thomas Cruikshank's part, and some of those here present part, in which I shall call Aberdeen slave trading. You know I speak the truth, just as the accused here has published it. Confess it!
I can't do that in a winner.
I am satisfied with the answers that Janet has given you, Davidson, and since I am in charge of these proceedings, which I may add are taking far too long getting to the main charges against Peter Williamson, I give her leave to stand back. Now, as you have already examined all the other witnesses, I shall graciously permit the briefest examination of Thomas Cruikshank. Stand forward, Thomas.
Thank you, sir. I was about to ask him to stand forward. So now, you are Thomas Cruikshank.
You ken fine if I am, Mr. Davidson. I've been a jailer here for umpteen years, and nobody kens me to be a good jailer, and a man that takes his responsibilities to the council and to the citizens of Aberdeen seriously.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Just as I'm sure you're equally dedicated to your employ as an abductor and abuser to numerous children of this town, involved in their incarceration and instrumental in their transportation to the colonies to be sold as slaves. I'm also sure that this was in the pay of prominent magistrates of this very town.
Well, Mr. Davidson, that's a gay accusation you're making there. I mean to say, I've been a jailer, a respected jailer for many years. My duties are money and I'm muckle responsibility. So I ask you, Mr. Davidson, when am I going to find the time and the opportunity and the fusion to gang about, nabbing bairns, locking them up, feeding them and watering them, and then marching them down to the harbour and the deed and nacht? I tell you, man, it's just nae possible. I'm sure Mr. Fordyce there would support me when I tell you how loyal I've been to the magistrates and how well like it I am with them and I. Oh, I would never be involved in any trade that would land me in any trouble with them.
I put it to you now, Cruikshank, that you were employed by these said magistrates to ply that vile trade of abduction, enhancing your own relations towards them and substantially enhancing your own pockets.
I hope, sir, that you will be able to provide reliable witnesses to substantiate these allegations against your peers, because, as you well know, the hearsay will not be entered and cannot be entered as evidence.
Aye, Mr. Davidson, far have you gotten on a standing that's going to say that he's ever seen me in the act attacking on a bairns? Oh, I might have advised a few about the good life to cook here in Virginia, and some of them might have signed up to against that fine land of opportunity, but I've never been paid for any of my advice. I could be doing me a rise in my wages because a child has got a lot to do and name will pay to do it and for all the responsibilities that he's got.
I have been approached by a goodly number of witnesses who say they have seen you in the company of young people, and those young people have been with you under duress. I believe them, as do many poor people who have lost their children.
I hope, Master Davidson, that this goodly number of witnesses will be coming forward to make their testimony, but I see no such congregation here today.
Everybody, yes, everybody knows what he and his like have been involved. Aye, and for years now. Poor people have been too afraid for their lives and those of their families to stand up against the powerful men of this town. Is there to be no justice for those bereft of their children? Have you no conscience, Cruikshank?
Are you dealing with me now, Mr. Davidson? I've told you who it stands with me and I've no more to say on the matter.
And rightly so. You may stand back, Thomas. Now, I have been extremely patient, as has this court. But we must, as justice demands, allow the accused to say a few words in his own defence. But I beg you to be brief. Stand forward, Peter Williamson.
Now, you are Peter Williamson, born in the parish of Hernley, a boy.
I am, sir.
Tell the court at what age you came to Aberdeen and what transpired when you were here.
Well, I shall try to be as brief as possible, but I do have much to tell. I was but a child of 10 and in a visit to aunts. I'd scarce arrived when I was seized and imprisoned in a barn in the green, along with a number of other youthful unfortunates, crowded together without adequate food or water. 2 members of the gang of abductors are here today present.
Identify them for the court.
The jailer Thomas Cruikshank and the woman Janet Brown.
The court, of course, will quickly gather that the accused is lying. Well, we know that he's not been in Aberdeen for the past 15 years, so how could he possibly accurately identify anyone after such a time?
They may have aged, but I'll never forget their faces nor their voices. I know, too, that they were in the employ of magistrates and merchants of this time, but I overheard as much as we were held, crowded together in that stifling barn. The names of William Fordyce and Walter Cochrane, amongst others. That barn was grim, but worse was to come as we were forced aboard the ship Planta, which carried us to Maryland. It was a long and dreadful voyage. 11 weeks in cramped and filthy conditions. And then at the end of our voyage, to add to our miseries, our ship was wrecked on a sandbank. That was a further horrifying experience for mere children. Those of us that were rescued were taken to Maryland and sold as slaves. We had no choice in our fate, sold to the highest bidder like cattle.
I would remind the court that the accused here was but a mere child of 10 years of age when this befell him. But the names of those mentioned today are indeed accurate. I have heard from one of my informants that there is a book lodged secretly somewhere within these civic offices concerning the slave trade, held by a certain magistrate. If I could procure the book, I'm sure I could prove his involvement. Redress would then be assured. Peter Williamson here is lucky to have survived his ordeals. How many of his companions did not survive? No chance for them to be heard from redress.